Chulin Daf Yud Gimel. We're starting at the bottom of Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis. The Gemara said that a charashat of a katan, if someone supervises their shechita is kosher, which means that obviously, even though charashat of the katan do not have kavana, do not have the proper kavana for shechita, it's fine because shechita's chulin, shechita of a regular animal, does not need any type of kavana. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Bar Abba, Ba'i Rabbi Yochanan, Katan yesh le machshava or ein le machshava. Does a katan, asks Rabbi Yochanan, does a katan have machshava or not have machshava? For example, Rashi says, for shchitas kachin, if someone's shechting in a korban, a sacrifice, and for that we know you do need kavana for the correct korban, the intention for slaughtering the correct korban, for what the type of korban is, you do need the correct kavana. And therefore, could a katan's kavana, could a katan's mind have the proper kavana that we can rely on for rendering the shechita of a korban okay? That's Rabbi Yochanan's question. Amarle Rav Ami says, Rav Ami v'tiboyle maise. Why don't you have the question of does a katan's action work or not? Ma'ishno maise delokom iboyle. Why don't you have a question about maise d'tnan? Because there's a Mishnah that says yesh lein maisa. So machshava nami, the same Mishnah talks about machshava nami leiti boili. You shouldn't have this question d'tnan because it says in the Mishnah ein lein machshava. There's no machshava. Basically, if you're asking only about machshava, it's because you know that from the Mishnah that maisa they do have maisa. So then you should know the same exact Mishnah says that they don't have machshava. What's this Mishnah? D'tnan ha'aloin v'harim v'ha'egois. Ha'aloin is a type of walnut. If you have a rimoin, is a pomegranate, ve'egois, and a walnut. Shechakukum tinoikas. That babies carved them out. Lamud bohen afar, to measure dust, which is a type of game they used to play. Oisha itkinum lekaf maznaim, or they affixed it as a holder in a scale. So timein mipnei sheyesh lohen maisa. Then this, in essence, this vessel that the tinoikas made becomes a kli, even though it was not a kli, and something that's not a kli cannot be mekabel tuma, can't have a status of impurity. But since they rendered this into a kli, because they changed the walnut, they carved it out so that now it is usable as a kli, is usable as a vessel. So now it can be mekabel tuma. And even though they are ketanim, still yesh lahen maisa. Minors the action of minors can render something into a vessel, which in turn makes it able to be mekabel tuma. However, continues the Mishnah, ein lahem machshava, they do not have machshava, which means that something that we need their intention, something that we specifically need their intention in order to render something tameh, that won't work. For example, Rashi says if they find, let's say they found a walnut that was cut in half already, and then they, in their mind, designated it for a kli, it's not good enough. An adult who finds a walnut that's already carved out, and or it's already chopped in half, and it's able to be used for something, but it hasn't been used for anything, the adult goes and designates it without doing any action, without changing anything on the actual kli. But all he has to do is to designate it, and now it became a kli. A katan does not have machshava. A katan's intention, a katan's mind is not strong enough, his das isn't strong enough to create a kli just through his intention of designating as a kli. So it says back Rabbi Eliyahu Raful, machshava graded to loikam ibayalei. I do not have, my question wasn't regarding just the question of if a katan can have machshava, because I know the Mishnah says the katan can have machshava. Ki kami bayla, what's my question? By machshavta nikeres mitoich maisa. If we can tell his intention through a different action that he did, meaning if all he did was, we think that he had an intention, that he had a machshava, he had kavana, that's not enough. But how about if an actual concrete action that he does that could reveal to us what the machshava is that he did, then maybe it should be fine. Kigoin, for example, says Rabbi Eliyahu, to have a kaima oila, that in oila, a carbon oila, was standing b'dar in the south of the Azara, the asyual b'tzafon, and then this katan took it from the south to the tzafon, v'shachta, and he slaughtered it. Now, the halacha is that an oila needs to be shechted b'tzafon. So it sounds like from the fact that this katan knew to move the carbon from the darim to the tzafon, must be he knows what he's doing. It must be his intention. Maybe the action that he did of moving it to the correct place should reveal to us that his intention really is to shecht it as an oila. So mine, what's the case over there? Mi de'asya b'tzafon. The shachta, since he brought it to the north of the Azara and he shechted it, so therefore he did have the correct intention. Or maybe he just didn't have space in the south, and therefore he moved it to the north, but not because he really had intentions for it to be an oila. The question is, when there is an external action, can we use that to rely on the fact that he did have the correct intention? So says the Gemara, Hanami Amr Rabbi Yochanan, Chadazimna. Rabbi Yochanan said this already one time. Ditnan, Hamala Peroisav Lagag, Mipnei Kanima. If someone brings up his fruits to the roof, Mipnei Kanima, because when it's on the ground, when it's on the floor, when it's on the ground, so then bugs can come onto the fruit. And therefore he brings it up to his roof where it's going to be free of the bugs. And then Yerad Alayim Tal, and then dew fell on these fruits and they're wet. Einon b'chiyutan. They are not qualified for what the Torah calls chiyutan. What's chiyutan? In order for fruits to become impure, it's not enough something impure touches it. It actually has to have liquid touch it. It has to have one of the zayin mashkin. And water is one of the zayin mashkin. The one of the zayin mashkin have to actually touch this the fruit, and then it's machshir it prepares it. It makes it qualified to accept impurity. But before water touches it, then it cannot be mikabel tumah. The im niskav. So says Rabbi Yochanan that we know that it's not enough for the water to just touch the fruit. The water has to be there intentionally. The owner of the fruit, or anyone really, has to intend for the water to touch the fruit in order to be machshir, to be mekabel tumah. It's not enough just for the water to go on itself. So this person brought the fruit up to the roof. He didn't bring it with intention for the dew to make it wet. He just brought it with intention for the kanima, for the bugs, not to touch the fruit. So therefore, his bringing it up to the roof was not considered an intention for the fruit to be mikabel tumah because of the hachshara of the dew. But im niskaf lekach, if the owner specifically had intention for the dew to fall onto the fruit, so then harei hein b'chiyutan, they are considered like liquid was put onto the fruit with intention, and therefore they could be mikabel tumah. How about if helam cheresh shaita v'katan? If either a cheresh, a shaita, or katan brought the fruit up, afal pishin iskavnu, even if they did have intention specifically for the dew to fall onto the fruit, which by an adult we say is machshirit, but if a cheresh shaita v'katan brought it up, einen b'chiyutan, it's not b'chiyutan, and that's because they do have action, we do count their action, the ein lahen machshava, but they do not have intention. And over here we need to know their intention. And even though they might have said, or they might have claimed that they had specific intention to bring it up for the dew, but a katan's intention isn't good enough in order to be machshir something. And over here, It could be that they only brought it up for the bugs. It's not something that's necessarily muchach from their actions. It's not something that we can prove from their actual actions. That they did it for the dew. Maybe they just brought it for the bugs. The Rabbi Yochanan, and says Rabbi Yochanan Loishna, when do we say that when the Ketanim bring it up, it's not muchshal lekabel tuma, because we don't know their intention. We can't rely on their intentions on a miner's mindset. If the miner didn't turn over the fruits in order for the fruits to get wet, but if the miner specifically turned over the fruits in order for the whole thing to become wet, so then it is considered chiyutan, and because his action that he did proves to us that he specifically wants it to get wet, so then even when a katan does it, it is muchshal lekabel tumah. Says the Gemara. So you see from this memra of Rabbi Yochanan that he already holds that when we have an action that proves to us a katan's machshava, that he does hold it works. The action can prove to us that the katan's intention, what the katan's intention is, and then we do rely on it. So the Gemara, this is his question: is this that we rely on the katan's machshava even midoraisa or just midrabanan? The simple question to ask over here is that if Rabbi Yochanan's question was whether when a katan does an action, it does reveal to us what his intention is, and we could rely on the intention when it's proved by an action, so then why didn't he bring a raya from the case itself of the Mishnah? The Mishnah's case itself said, when the Mishnah said that they do have Maisa, it was a case where the Ketanim did something with their action. They changed the vessel into a kli, and that, together with their intention to make it into a kli, is what made it into a kli, and it's rendered, their Maisa is rendered valid, and we do rely on it in order for it to be makabel tumah. So what's the difference between that case, which there is a Maisa, and the case of Rabbi Yochanan of Shchita, when his action affirms that his intention is that it's an oil or not? So this question creates the tension between Rashi and Taisus in our sugya. Rashi says that the case of the Mishnah, the reason why in the case of the Mishnah yesh lo maisa is because he actually says with his mouth, he tells us in words that he did intend to make it into a kli. Mashenke, in the case of the carbon, is if we didn't ask him and he didn't tell us with his mouth whether he meant to do it in oila, to shacht it as an oila, and therefore we want to know whether we can just rely on his action, on the external action, in order to reveal to us that he did have the correct intention. Tosfos explains it differently. Tosfos says, no, the case of the Mishnah is a Maaseh Gomer. In making something into a vessel, the action is the main part over here. And it's so recognizable from his action that his intention was to make this into a kli, and therefore, in that situation, yesh lahem Maisa. But how about in the case of Shchita's Kachin, when the action that he does, the shchita that he does, we are supervising. So that is totally fine. The question is only on the intent, on the kavana itself, that we need to know that this katan has kavana, and on that, you're using not the actual maisa, you're using an external action that he's doing, i.e. moving the animal from the dharm to the tzafan, and the question is, can we rely on that to concretize his kavana, and for us to know that we can rely on even a miner's intention? And to that, the Gemara brings a raya from the case of bringing the fruit up to the roof, and then the Gemara answers that Rabbi Yochanan's question was only regarding whether it's deraisa or derabbanan. Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak Masni Hachi. Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, he says over this question regarding Rabbi Yochanan in a different way. Amar Rabbi Chiya bar Abba. Rabbi Chiya bar Abba says, "By Rabbi Yochanan, katan yesh lei ma'aseh, ay ein lei ma'aseh." Rabbi Yochanan's question was regarding ma'aseh. Does he have ma'aseh or does he not have ma'aseh? Amar lei Rav, does his action something we can rely on? Does his action render any dinim or not? Amar lei Rav Ami v'tibay machshava. Why don't you ask about machshava? Ma'ishna machshava deloi kam miboyla. What's the difference regard that machshava, you don't have a question ditnan because it says in the Mishnah in the machshava. Maisa not related to you shouldn't have the question of maisa. Ditnan yesh lan maisa. They do have a maisa. So says the Gemara, achi kami bayalei. This is his question, Doraisa or Durabban, and he wanted to know that this that the Mishnah says that they do have a Maisa doesn't mean Midoraisa or only Midorabban. No, Pashan, he says Yesh lan Maisa vafilu Midoraisa. And he said, yes, even Midoraisa they have Maisa, and Ein lahem machshava, they do not have machshava vafilu Midorabban, even Midorabban they do not have machshava. But by machshavtoi mikeres mitorich maisav, in the case where his intention, his machshava, his mindset, the katan's kavana, is recognizable, is proven from his maisa, then midoraisa einlo, midoraisa is not considered, the machshava is not counted, but midorabanon yeshlo, we are machmir midorabanon, that his machshava does count and his kavana does count for whatever dinim that might apply. Ba'amine Shmuel Merav Huna, Shmuel asks Rav Huna, Minayim misasek bekachim. How do we know that someone is misasek while shechting kachim? While slaughtering kachim, he's thinking about something else, or he didn't have any intention whatsoever to shecht. The knife dropped on its own and happened to slice through the animal. And how do we know in that situation that the korban is not good? Shehu pasul, that it's pasul. Shenemar v'shochat es ben habakar. Pasuk says he shechts the calf, the ben habakar. Shetehei shchita l'shem ben bakar. We see from the verse that the shchita has to be with intention for the ben bakar. It has to be with intention. Amar loi zubi yodenu hi le'akev. Zubi yodenu hi. This pasuk is in our hands, meaning we know this already. We know from this pasuk that you have to have intention. But le'akev minayin, how do you know that if you didn't do it, it's me'akev, and the shechita is rendered invalid? Meaning, he's saying from the first pasuk we know that it should be done. But how do you know that if you don't do it, it's going to be pasul? He says the pasuk says l'tzonechem tizbachuhu. L'tzonechem means to your will, you have to slaughter it. It's talking about a korban, and he's interpreting it as to mean, what does it mean? Your will, l'daitechem. It has to be in your mind. It has to be with intention. Zvuchu, you have to shecht. So therefore, you see that shchita has to be bekavana by kachim. Says the Mishnah, shchitas ovid kechavim, the slaughtering of a non-Jew is a nevela. The animal is rendered a nevela. It's not a good shchita. Umtama b'masa, and a nevela is mitame b'masa. If someone carries it, it makes the person who carries it tameh. Says the Gemara, nevela in, it becomes a nevela, like an animal that dies on its own, but isur hana Allah, but there's no prohibition in having benefit from this dead animal. You can sell it, like the Torah says by nevela, you can have benefit from it. But you see specifically over here that when a non-Jew slaughters an animal, you can have benefit from the animal. Mantana, who is this Brisa? Who's the Tana of our Mishnah? It's not like Rabbi Eliezer. Why? Rabbi Eliezer. Ha'omer stam, didn't Rabbi Eliezer say stam achsheves ovid kechavim lavodes kechavim? The stam das, the plain, the default intention, the default machshava of a non-Jew is lavodes kechavim, is for avodah zarah, which means that when he shechted an animal, he would intend to slaughter it towards his idol, towards his deity, his the star that he worships, and therefore it would render the actual animal not only nevela, it would render it asur b'hana because it was slaughtered for idolatry. Okay, so the Mishnah is not going to be like Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Ami Omar, Hachikatani. Rabbi Ami says this is how to read the Mishnah. Shchitas ovid kechavim nevela. The shchita of a non-Jew is a nevela. Hademin lavodes kechavim. Hademin, but if it's of a min is someone who's aduk lavodes zara. A min, which means sometimes it means a heretic. But in this context, a min would mean someone who is very attached to idolatry, and his slaughtering would be considered la'avodes kechavim, and would be also asur b'hana. Tanina, Lahad Tan Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, we see from the way Rabbi Ami interprets the Mishnah, we see a precedent to it from another brisa, Tan Rabbanan. The rabbis learned Shchitas min la'avodas kechavim, if the slaughtering of a min, a heretic who is attached la'avodas kechavim, the shchita of a min is la'avodas kechavim. The slaughtering, so we see here the same thing for the brisa. The shchita of a min is considered la'avodas kechavim, and it's rendered not only nevela but also asur b'hana. Pitoi pas kusi, his bread is considered like the bread of a non-Jew, which is asur, like pas akum. This is obviously even if this min is a Yisrael. If it's a Jew who is attached, who's aduk to avodah zarah, so his bread is considered like the bread of a non-Jew. Yeino yain esach, his wine is as if he poured avodah zarah. Sfarav sifrei koismin, his books are like books of witchcraft, which means even the Sefer Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzahs that he writes should be burned as if it's books of witchcraft. Peiros of Tavolim, his fruits are considered tavel. You cannot rely that he donated truma or meiser. The yesh aimrim, and some people even say banav mamzerim. His kids are even considered born out of wedlock, and therefore mamzerim. The Tanakama in the first Tana who does not hold that his kids are considered mamzerim, it's because ishto the mafker. Even though he's a min avodah zarah, he's still not going to be free with his wife and let his wife commit adultery and create mamzerim. Amar Mar, we said before, shchitas ovid kechavim nevela, the slaughtering of a non-Jew is a nevela. Says the Gemara, v'nechu shema minhu. Why don't we be suspicious? We should be concerned that maybe he's a min and maybe he slaughtered for avodah zarah and should be also asur ba'ana. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Avua, ein minin beumas ovid kechavim. The minim in the umais are not avdei kechavim, meaning among the non-Jews we don't have people who are so attached to avodah zarah. Says the Gemara, v'akachazinon deika. Don't we see that there are people who are so attached to avodah zarah? Ema, says the Gemara, Ema. No, what I mean is, what we should say is ein roiv avdei kechavim minim. Most of the avdei kechavim are not minim, and therefore we don't have to be concerned because we can go by basar, the majority, and the majority of non-Jews aren't so attached to their idolatry, and therefore we don't have to be concerned that he slaughtered it with intention to serve his idol. Savar law, he holds, says the Gemara, he holds ki hadam Rabbi Eliyahu bar Abba Rabbi Yechanan, like Rabbi Eliyahu bar Abba said in the Yechanan, that Nachrim Shebchutzlar, the non-Jews outside of Eretz Yisrael, lav avdei avodas kechavim hein, they're not real, true, bona fide idolaters. Rather, it's just a custom that they inherited from their fathers, and therefore we do not have to be concerned that when he slaughters an animal, it's la'avodah zarah. Amar Yosef bar Minyani, Amar Nachman, ein minin beumas ha'olam, ein minin beumais avdei kechavim. That the minin beumais, the heretics, the minin in the nations, in the non-Jewish nations, they're not considered avdei kechavim. We don't have to be concerned that they're so attached to the avdei kechavim. Says the Gemara, Lama ilay l'shchita. If you mean that regarding shchita, they're not considered minim, and you don't have to be concerned that they're doing avodah zarah, hashta shchitas min the Yisrael omart asira, and min, that's a Jew. You said his shchita is asur. The avdei kechavim mibai. If it's an avdei kechavim who's a min, of course it's asur. This statement of Rav Yosef, Rav Menem, and then Rav Nachman, the Gemara understands to mean, not like we said before, that ein raiv avdei kechavim minim, that raiv non-Jews are attached to their avodah zarahs. No, the Gemara means over here means that even a min, someone a non-Jew who is attached to his idolatry, still he says that they're not considered idolaters, and that the Gemara asks. So why should that be? Why should he be better than a Jew who's considered attached? Why should we say such a thing? Why should we say that there are no minim in the non-Jews regarding shchita? Ella, says the Gemara, l'maridin. Maybe it's regarding the din that the Gemara quotes in the Sechta Avodah Zarah, that in the time of the Talmud, if you have a min, you would throw him into a pit, which means you would proactively get rid of him. And maybe the statement of Rabbi Eliyahu means that only within Jews, a min, someone who is attached to Avodah Zarah, only if it's within Jews you would throw him into a pit and get rid of him, but not among the non-Jews. Says the Gemara, Hashad Yisrael Maridin, if a Jew you would throw down into a pit, for sure, a non-Jew you don't even have to say, it's simple, of course you would. So Amar Rav Ukva Bar Chama, what does he mean? He means lekabel mehen carbon. He means that a Jew, we said, if he's a min, we won't accept a carbon from him, but a non-Jew, we do accept a carbon from him, even though he's a min. The Tani, like we went to the Brisa, and we saw this before, Mikem like Kulchem, we learned from the pasuk by carbon that says we bring a carbon from the Jews, but not from all the Jews. Lahaiti is hamumar, this is to exclude a mumar. Mikem, we also use the word bokem mikem to say bochem chilakti, among you, among the Jews, I made this difference of two classes between a mumar and not a mumar, that from a mumar we don't accept. But that amongst the non-Jews we don't make this differentiation as to whether he's an idolater or not, whether he's an actual min who was attached to Avodah Zarah or not. Either way, we accept a carbon from him. So that's what he means, that that amongst the non-Jews we don't have any category of min. Says the Gemara, Mimai, how does he know this? How do we know that this is what it's saying? That amongst the non-Jews, we do accept a carbon from even from a min. How do we know to darshan it? Bochem chilakti v'loy. This is what the verse is saying. Yisrael tzadiki kabel, from the Jews, from Jews. Mitzadiki, from righteous people, from tzadikim, you should accept. Mirishii, from evil Jews, loisekabel, you shouldn't accept. Aval me'evdikachavim, but from non-Jews, klalo, you shouldn't accept at all. How do you know that it's saying that amongst non-Jews we don't differentiate? Maybe it's saying amongst non-Jews we don't accept at all. And that's what the word mikem, only from you and not from non-Jews. It says, don't think that. Why? The Tanya, because we have a brisa that teaches us that the pasuk that says by a carbon, Ish mi beis Yisrael min ager Yisrael asher yakriv korbanoi, any man from Israel and from a convert to Israel that would bring a carbon. So it says the word ish twice. Ish, a man. Matam, what do you need to say ish? The rabbi said this is to include a non-Jew. That noidrim nidarim unidavas Yisrael, that they can vow to bring sacrifices and donations Ki Yisrael, just like a Jew. So from that verse we learned that a non-Jew can bring a carbon. So it must be when it says Mikem, we're saying that this is that this differentiation that we made within Jews that a mumar can't bring does not apply to non-Jews, and a non-Jew who's a mumar, which means that he's going, even if he's aduk l'Avodah Zarah, if he's so attached to Avodah Zarah, still he can bring a carbon. Which, if it would be a Jew, we would say no, he can't bring a carbon. Okay. Continues the Gemara, Mutama b'masa, and we said that this nevela makes someone who carries it b'masa, someone who carries it makes him tamei. Says the Gemara, Pshita, this is simple. Kevin the nevela, since the nevela it's Mutama b'masa, of course it's Mutama b'masa. Like the pasuk says, Rashi says it's a explicit verse, and it says nivlasa, someone who carries the carcass is tamei, even if he doesn't touch it, even if there's something in between. But since he's carrying it in a sack or something, doesn't make a difference. Still, he's tamei. And it says the Gemara, Amarava Hachikatani, Zu mitama b'masa. This is what the Mishnah means to say. This is mitama b'masa. V'yesh l'cha acheres shehi mitama afilu bo'el. But there is another type of carbon, another type of animal, dead animal, that is mitama even be'oil, which means even through being under the same roof, under the same tent with the animal, without even carrying it, without touching it, just being under the same roof makes you impure. And which animal is this? The Kerem of someone brings an animal, serves it to idolatry, to an idol. He brings a sacrifice to an idol, that renders it tamei not just b'masa, but even be'oihel. And that's what the Mishnah means to say, that this specifically is only metame b'masa, but there is another animal that is metame even be'oihel. And this Mishnah is going like b'nusera. Some say no. Rava says this. This is what the Mishnah says. Zu metame b'masa. This is metame b'masa. But there is a different one. Shehi kazu. That is just like this. We're specifically pointing this out here to say that this animal, Nevelos Metame B'masa, and another animal. And another type of animal, dead animal, also is just like this. Shemetame B'masa ve'ein metame b'oil ve'ezazu, and which one is the Kerem avodas kachal? Would like Rabbi Yehuda Nmesera. And specifically, the Mishnah is trying to say it's not like Rabbi Yehuda Nmesera. So the opposite. The Mishnah is coming to say that the Kerem avodas zara is not metame ba'oil. The Tanya. Where do we see this shita of Rabbi Yehuda Nmesera? The Brisa says, the Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Nmesera Omer minayin tikrev avodas kachavim she metame ba'oil. How do we know that if an animal is served towards an avodah zara, it's metame ba'oil? Shenemar vayitzamedu leval peor. It says there's a pasuk in Tehillim that the Klal Yisrael became close to the avodah zara of Val Peor, vayechelu zivchei mesim, and they ate from the slaughters of the dead, which is a connotation for the sacrifices of avodah zara. Ma meis metame ba'oil, just like a mace is metame ba'oil, a dead body, a human dead body is metame ba'oil. So after Kerem avodas kachavim is metame ba'oil, so too the Kerem avodas kachavim is metame ba'oil, and he learns this out from the juxtaposition in the verse of Tehillim, which puts the avodah zara and uses the word mesim also for avodah zara. Says the Mishnah, Ashoichet b'layla, someone slaughters at night, b'chen asuma, and also a blind person, sheshachat shchita seksher, the shchita is okay. Ashoichet di eved in, says the Gemara, Ashoichet means that it's only b'di eved, only if you did it, it's fine. But l'chatchila, lo, you shouldn't do this l'chatchila. Ideally, you shouldn't do it, but if you did it, it's fine. Or minhi, says the Gemara, we have a finding contradiction, la'olam shaychtim, you should always shecht bein b'yom, during the day, bein b'layla, bein rosh hagag, whether it's at the on the roof of a house, bein rosh hasfina, or at the head of a boat. Rav Papa, what's the so from this brisa you see that la'olam shaychtim, it sounds l'chatchila, you can go ahead and do it. It's even the ideal you can check the nights up. So that's a contradiction to the inference we made from the mission that's limited. Even Rav Papa shahu connected. Talking about when he has a torch in front of it. So even at night, when you have a torch, then it's fine even l'chatchila. Amar Ravashi, de kanami diktani, the brisa is very particular in its usage of how it's said that you can shaft at night, and it's particular to actually teach you this diktani, because it says hasam dumya diyam. It says over there in the brisa, dumya diyam, just like day. It said bein b'yom bein b'layla, so it's the yom and layla are next to each other to tell you that the layla is fine only if it's like day, meaning if you have light through a torch. The hacha, but in our Mishnah, the reason why it's b'di'evet, because it's dumya desuma, it's right next to the case of a blind person. Shma mina, so you see that's really what the brisa meant, that when you have a torch, and the Mishnah meant if you don't have a torch. Rashi explains that the reason why the brisa that we just read had to tell us that you can shecht at the head of a roof or at the head of a boat, it's because we have a rule that you're not supposed to shecht into a kli. If you shecht into chulin, into a kli, it's a problem, because someone might say that you're doing it for to throw it to Avodah Zarah. Why are you putting it into a vessel? Because you want to throw it as service to Avodah Zarah. So therefore, if you're on your roof, you are allowed. You have an exception. You're able to use a kli because everyone understands you're doing it not to make your roof all dirty, and so too you're not supposed to shecht into a river because someone might say you're worshiping the deity of the water, the Sar Hayam. Therefore, if you're on a boat, you're allowed to do it because there's no other place you can do it. That's why the Brisa specifically tells us that these things are okay. Ad kan Chulin Daf Yomi Gimel.